Elara existed in a world that consistently overlooked her, a brilliant but socially awkward young woman whose inner landscape teemed with complex algorithms and innovative concepts. Her humble beginnings offered little in the way of material comfort, but they fueled an insatiable curiosity, a deep-seated passion for technology that burned brighter than any perceived limitation. From the moment she first touched a keyboard, lines of code became a language she understood far better than human conversation, a realm where logic reigned supreme and potential felt boundless. Yet, the traditional gateways to success remained stubbornly shut. Prestigious universities, seduced by polished resumes and charismatic interviews, repeatedly rejected her applications. Tech companies, swayed by superficial charm and established networks, dismissed her innovative pitches with polite but firm finality. Each rejection, a sting to her already fragile confidence, piled upon the last, cementing her status as an outsider. Her family, well-meaning but utterly bewildered by her unconventional pursuits, offered subtle disapproval. Their quiet pleas for her to pursue a safer path, a stable career in accounting or teaching, echoed in the silences of their cramped apartment, a constant reminder of her perceived failings. The nadir arrived at a regional tech fair, a public humiliation that seared itself into her memory. Presenting a nascent idea for a decentralized data network, Elara fumbled her words, her voice barely audible over the din of confident pitches. A snicker from the front row, followed by a condescending question from a panelist, reduced her carefully constructed presentation to rubble. She left the fair not with accolades, but with burning cheeks and the crushing weight of isolation, her status as an outcast unequivocally solidified. Self-doubt, a venomous serpent, began to coil around her heart, whispering insidious doubts about her very worth. In the quiet solitude of her room, amidst a tangle of wires and the glow of multiple monitors, Elara poured her life into a hidden project. It was a complex algorithm, intricate and sprawling, a digital tapestry woven from countless hours of tireless dedication. This was her sanctuary, her rebellion, a place where her brilliance could flourish unjudged. Her vision was singular, a decentralized, ethical AI designed not for profit or control, but for the collective good, a stark contrast to the monolithic, data-hungry systems dominating the industry. Liam, a former classmate with an easy smile and a knack for networking, occasionally drifted into her orbit. He offered fleeting encouragement, a casual, "That's neat, Elara," as he glanced at her sprawling code, but his eyes always seemed to be scanning the room for more conventional opportunities. He understood the technical jargon, perhaps even appreciated the ingenuity, but her grander ambitions, her ethical framework, he ultimately dismissed as idealistic, impractical dreams. "It's a nice thought, Elara," he'd say, a patronizing pat on the shoulder, but the real world doesn't work like that. A small, seemingly insignificant detail within her sprawling code, a unique encryption protocol she'd painstakingly developed, held the true key to its future potential, a seed of revolution hidden in plain sight. But no one saw it. No one understood. Elara felt utterly alone against the world, a solitary vessel navigating an ocean of skepticism. Late one night, the blue light of her monitor illuminating her weary face, Elara stared at the lines of code. The weight of her rejections, the subtle disapproval of her family, Liam's dismissive encouragement, it all pressed down on her. Her shoulders slumped, a deep sigh escaping her lips. But then, a flicker. A tiny spark of defiance ignited in her eyes. This wasn't just code. It was a promise. A promise to herself, a promise to a better future. The world might have rejected her, but she wouldn't reject her dream. Not yet. The flicker in Elara's eyes hardened into a resolute flame. The world's skepticism had not extinguished her dream. Instead, it had forged a stronger resolve within her. She would pursue her vision independently, an unwavering rebellion against every obstacle. This decision, born from profound isolation, became her guiding star. Her first act of defiance was a deeply personal sacrifice. The antique locket, a cherished heirloom from her grandmother, and her collection of rare first-edition sci-fi novels, symbols of comfort and escape, were painstakingly sold. Each item represented a piece of her past, now converted into meager funds to fuel her future. Building her prototype in isolation was a brutal, relentless grind. Days blurred into nights, sustained by instant noodles and an unshakable belief. Her cramped apartment transformed into a makeshift laboratory, strewn with circuit boards, discarded wires, and the faint hum of overworked servers. Loneliness was a constant companion, but it was a loneliness tempered by purpose. One rain-lashed evening, a chance encounter altered her solitary trajectory. Marcus, a former lead programmer from a now-defunct tech giant, sat hunched over a lukewarm coffee in a dimly lit diner, nursing a profound disillusionment with the corporate tech world. Elara, seeking a moment of respite from her relentless coding, overheard his bitter monologue about ethical compromises and soulless algorithms. Intrigued, she cautiously approached him, the fledgling ideas of her decentralized AI spilling forth in a torrent of passionate explanation. Marcus, initially dismissive, saw a glimmer of raw, untainted potential in her fervent conviction. His cynicism slowly began to yield to a grudging respect as he witnessed Elara's relentless dedication, her unwavering moral compass in a field often devoid of one. He saw in her the idealism he had long lost. The process of building her first functional module was slow, arduous, and fraught with setbacks. Debugging sessions stretched for days, each line of code a battle won or lost. Marcus, with his seasoned pragmatism, became an invaluable sounding board, his technical expertise providing the structure to Elara's visionary concepts. He challenged her, pushed her, and occasionally pulled all-nighters alongside her, fueled by a nascent belief in her project. Then came the small, unexpected success. A minor breakthrough in the module's data processing capabilities, a proof of concept that demonstrated a fraction of her algorithm's potential. It was a tiny victory, yet it reverberated through their makeshift lab, validating her unconventional approach and injecting a much-needed surge of hope. This shared triumph solidified the growing bond between Elara and Marcus, a partnership built on shared ambition, mutual understanding, and an unspoken pact to challenge the status quo. Meanwhile, her family's continued lack of support persisted, like a low, discordant hum in the background of her burgeoning success. They viewed her efforts as a delusion, a prolonged fantasy that diverted her from the real world. Their worried phone calls were less about concern for her well-being and more about veiled criticisms, urging her to abandon her hobby and seek stable employment. Unbeknownst to Elara, a rival tech behemoth, Omnicorp, had already established a sophisticated system for subtly monitoring emerging talents and disruptive technologies. Their algorithms, however, were designed to identify conventional success metrics, overlooking Elara's unconventional, under-the-radar innovation. Her name never surfaced on their radar, a fortunate oversight that granted her crucial time. As Elara and Marcus delved deeper, they began to uncover the first hints of a larger, systemic problem that her ethical AI could potentially solve. The pervasive, unchecked data harvesting, the opaque algorithms influencing public discourse, these were not isolated incidents, but symptoms of a deeply entrenched, ethically compromised system. Her technology, she realized, wasn't just an alternative, it was a necessary corrective. One night, after weeks of relentless coding, Elara experienced a major breakthrough in her core algorithm. A complex problem that had plagued her for months suddenly yielded to an elegant solution, unlocking unprecedented efficiency and security. A wave of exhilaration washed over her, a potent cocktail of triumph and exhaustion. Yet, as the glow of success faded, a new, more dangerous challenge emerged on the horizon. The very power she now wielded, the disruptive potential of her creation, would inevitably draw unwanted attention, transforming her quiet rebellion into an open confrontation. The small shared victory with the algorithm propelled Elara and Marcus forward with renewed vigor. They had proven the core concept, and now Ether, their ambitious project, began to attract a small but fiercely loyal team of like-minded individuals. These were not the corporate drones of Omnicorp, but passionate young engineers and data scientists, drawn by Elara's vision of an ethical, decentralized AI. They worked in a cramped, rented office, fueled by cheap coffee and an unshakable belief that they were building something truly revolutionary. Ether was no longer just code. It was a burgeoning movement, promising to redefine the relationship between humanity and technology. Their progress was undeniable, each new module bringing Ether closer to its full potential. The buzz began to spread, a quiet hum in niche tech forums and academic circles. It was then that Liam, Elara's former friend, re-entered her orbit. He appeared at their office, a picture of renewed camaraderie, expressing what seemed like genuine interest in Ether's progress. Elara, inherently trusting and eager to share her passion, welcomed him. She recounted their journey, the breakthroughs, the challenges, and, in her unguarded enthusiasm, shared sensitive details about Ether's unique architecture and its underlying ethical framework. She believed she was reconnecting with an old ally, someone who finally understood her vision. Liam, however, was no longer the friend she remembered. Driven by a corrosive cocktail of jealousy and ambition, he had been observing Elara's struggles and now her nascent success with growing resentment. He saw not a friend, but an opportunity. Secretly, methodically, he gathered the information Elara so readily offered, meticulously documenting Ether's core concepts, its innovative algorithms, and its disruptive potential. He then leaked every sensitive detail to Omnicorp, a calculated act of betrayal designed to both elevate himself and crush Elara's burgeoning enterprise. The devastating realization of Liam's betrayal hit Elara with the force of a physical blow. The news arrived not as a single revelation, but as a series of increasingly alarming signals, subtle shifts in the market, whispered rumors, and finally, a direct, undeniable confirmation from an anonymous source. She felt violated, exposed, her trust shattered into a million pieces. The emotional toll was immense, leaving her reeling in a vortex of disbelief and pain. The team's morale plummeted. The news of the leak spread like wildfire, threatening to extinguish the fragile flame of their hope. Financial backing, already precarious, became almost impossible to secure as investors grew wary of the compromised intellectual property. Omnicorp, armed with Liam's stolen information, moved swiftly. They launched a similar, though ultimately inferior product, attempting to flood the market and discredit Ether before it could even properly launch. Their strategy was clear: dilute Elara's innovation, sow doubt, and claim the ethical AI space as their own, regardless of the blatant theft. Elara found herself consumed by a maelstrom of anger, grief, and a burning urge for retribution. The injustice was unbearable. But Marcus, ever her pillar of strength, stood firm. He urged her to channel her potent emotions into something constructive, reminding her that true victory lay not in revenge, but in innovation. "They can steal our designs, Elara," he said, his voice calm amidst her storm. "But they can't steal our vision, our dedication, or the spirit that built Ether." Omnicorp, not content with merely launching a copycat product, initiated a public smear campaign against Ether. They painted Elara as an amateur, her technology as unstable, and her ethical claims as naive and impractical. The relentless attacks were designed to isolate her further, to make her and her team appear as nothing more than a fleeting anomaly. The pressure was immense, threatening to buckle their resolve. In the darkest hours of this unprecedented assault, As Elara wrestled with her shattered trust and the relentless public attacks, a cryptic, anonymous message landed in her encrypted inbox. It was brief, almost poetic in its ambiguity, yet it hinted at a deeper conspiracy within Omnicorp, suggesting that Liam's betrayal was merely a symptom of a far greater rot. The message offered no names, no direct evidence, but it ignited a new spark within Elara, a flicker of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, they were not fighting an insurmountable battle against a monolithic corporation, but against a corrupt core that could be exposed. The cryptic message, a lifeline in a sea of despair, galvanized Elara. It transformed her anger from a destructive fire into a focused, incandescent energy. She shared the anonymous tip with Marcus and the core team, who, despite the recent hardships, found renewed purpose in the fight. The injustice that had threatened to tear them apart now forged them into an unbreakable unit, fueled by a shared sense of betrayal and a burning desire to prove Ether's worth. They rallied around Elara, their collective resolve hardening against Omnicorp's relentless attacks. Elara, channeling every ounce of her frustration and indignation, plunged herself into Ether's development with an intensity that surprised even Marcus. She pushed its capabilities beyond anything they had previously imagined, refining algorithms, enhancing its ethical decision-making framework, and fortifying its defenses against external threats. The betrayal had not broken her, it had sharpened her vision, forcing her to innovate faster and more profoundly. Ether was no longer just a project. It was a defiant statement, a testament to their resilience. With meticulous planning, they strategically released a limited beta version of Ether. It wasn't a full launch, but a carefully curated showcase of its superior ethical framework and unparalleled performance. The beta was designed to speak for itself, to bypass Omnicorp's smear campaign and reach users who valued integrity and genuine innovation. The response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Users, tired of intrusive algorithms and data exploitation, flocked to Ether's clean, transparent platform. Its integrity resonated deeply, attracting a loyal user base who appreciated its revolutionary approach to AI. Omnicorp's attempts to suppress Ether now backfired spectacularly. Their desperate measures, from legal threats to thinly veiled propaganda, only served to highlight the stark contrast between their predatory practices and Elara's ethical vision. Each attack drew more attention to Ether, turning their aggression into inadvertent publicity for Elara's innovative approach. The public, already wary of corporate giants, grew increasingly suspicious of Omnicorp's motives and more curious about the underdog challenging them. A pivotal moment arrived when a powerful, independent tech influencer, known for their unbiased and incisive reviews, discovered Ether. Intrigued by the growing buzz, they delved deep into its functionalities and ethical code. Their subsequent glowing review, disseminated across various platforms, championed Ether's cause, hailing it as the future of responsible AI. This endorsement was a game-changer, transforming Elara's public image from that of a rejected outcast to a visionary disruptor almost overnight. The narrative began to shift, and the world started to listen. Elara's family, who had once viewed her pursuits with skepticism and subtle disapproval, could no longer ignore the undeniable evidence of her growing success. News articles featuring her, interviews with the tech influencer, and the burgeoning user base of Ether made it impossible to dismiss her as merely deluded. They began to show hesitant interest, their calls becoming more frequent, their questions laced with a newfound curiosity and, perhaps, a hint of pride. The walls of their skepticism, built over years of perceived failures, were finally starting to crumble. Meanwhile, the anonymous messages continued, becoming more frequent and detailed. They were no longer cryptic hints, but precise revelations, exposing critical vulnerabilities in Omnicorp's internal systems, detailing unethical data handling practices, and even hinting at a larger network of corruption within the corporate giant. Elara, with Marcus's help, meticulously cross-referenced these tips, piecing together a terrifying mosaic of corporate malfeasance. She realized the deeper implications of Omnicorp's unethical practices extended far beyond just stealing Ether's concepts. They represented a systemic threat to user privacy and digital ethics globally. This wasn't just about Ether anymore. It was about protecting the future of technology itself. Then, Ether achieved a viral moment. A small, seemingly innocuous feature within the beta, designed for secure and private communication, was adopted by a global grassroots movement fighting for digital rights. The movement lauded Ether as the only truly secure and ethical platform, leading to an explosion in user signups and media coverage. The sheer volume of new users, coupled with the influencers' endorsement and the public's growing distrust of Omnicorp, propelled Ether into the mainstream consciousness. This undeniable success, however, drew the full, aggressive attention of Omnicorp. Elara knew then that the gloves were off. The battle had just begun. Omnicorp, infuriated by Ether's meteoric rise and the public's increasingly negative perception of their own brand, unleashed a relentless, multi-pronged assault. Legal threats, baseless accusations of patent infringement, flooded Elara's nascent company. Their cyber warfare division launched sophisticated attacks, attempting to cripple Ether's servers and compromise user data. Simultaneously, whispers of lucrative offers reached Ether's core team members, thinly veiled attempts to poach talent and dismantle the project from within. Yet, Elara and her team, hardened by past betrayals and fueled by a shared conviction, fought back with an unwavering resilience. Their growing community, a vocal legion of users and supporters, fortified their resolve, turning every Omnicorp attack into an opportunity for Ether to demonstrate its integrity and superior security. Amidst this escalating conflict, the anonymous source finally revealed themselves. It was Sarah, a high-ranking, disillusioned executive from Omnicorp's Ethical Compliance Division. Sarah, sickened by the blatant disregard for user privacy and the manipulative AI practices being implemented, had been meticulously documenting Omnicorp's transgressions. Her intel was invaluable, providing Elara with irrefutable evidence of Omnicorp's unethical data harvesting, their use of dark patterns in AI algorithms designed to exploit user psychology, and their systematic suppression of dissenting voices within the company. Sarah's courage ignited a new fire in Elara. This was no longer just about Ether's survival. It was about exposing a corporate behemoth that threatened the very fabric of digital ethics. Elara made the momentous decision to expose Omnicorp's malpractices, a move that carried immense personal and professional risk. She knew it would invite even fiercer retaliation, but the moral imperative outweighed any fear. The media, already captivated by the unfolding tech war between the underdog startup and the corporate giant, descended into a frenzy. Every article, every broadcast, painted a vivid picture of the David versus Goliath struggle, with Elara at its epicenter. The public watched with bated breath, eager to see if a principled stand could truly challenge entrenched power. Meanwhile, Liam, witnessing Elara's unwavering resolve and Ether's undeniable momentum, felt a gnawing regret. Omnicorp's desperation, their increasingly reckless tactics, made him question his choices. The brief, hollow satisfaction of his betrayal had long evaporated, replaced by a bitter taste of shame and the stark realization of what he had sacrificed for fleeting gain. He watched from the sidelines, a silent observer of the storm he had helped unleash, a storm that Elara was now navigating with astonishing grace and strength. During this tumultuous period, a powerful, enigmatic investor, Mr. Chen, known for his predatory takeovers and ruthless business acumen, approached Elara. He offered substantial funding, enough to secure Ether's future and accelerate its global expansion almost overnight. However, his offer came with significant strings attached: a demand for considerable control over Ether's ethical framework, a dilution of Elara's founding vision, and a clear path toward maximizing profit above all else. Elara faced a profound moral dilemma: compromise her principles for survival and unprecedented growth, or stand firm on her ethical foundation and risk financial collapse in the face of Omnicorp's onslaught. After agonizing deliberation, Elara made her choice, a decision that underscored the very essence of Ether. She rejected Mr. Chen's offer, politely but firmly. Her refusal resonated deeply with her team and supporters, reinforcing Ether's unwavering commitment to ethical AI and its core values. It was a clear declaration that Ether would not sacrifice its soul for mere survival. This act of defiance, this steadfast adherence to her principles, set the stage for the dramatic showdown that was now inevitable. The tech world braced itself as Elara, with Sarah's damning evidence in hand, prepared for a direct public confrontation with Omnicorp's CEO, a clash that would determine the future of ethical technology. The morning of the Global Tech Summit dawned with an electric tension, a palpable hum of anticipation that vibrated through the city. This was it, the culmination of years of relentless effort, countless rejections, and an unyielding belief in a better future. Elara, dressed in a sharp, understated suit, felt a peculiar mix of exhilaration and dread. Today, both Ether and Omnicorp would present to the world, and Elara knew she carried the hopes of ethical technology on her shoulders. Her team, a tight-knit unit forged in the fires of adversity, moved with a quiet intensity, making final preparations. Just as Elara was about to head to the main stage, a torrent of alarms blared across their internal network. Omnicorp, in a final desperate act of sabotage, had launched a massive cyber attack targeting Ether's presentation systems. The screen displaying their core demo flickered violently, lines of malicious code attempting to corrupt the pristine algorithms. Panic rippled through the control room, but Elara's voice, calm and resolute, cut through the noise. "Everyone, focus. Marcus, secure the primary server. Sarah, analyze their attack vectors. We have precisely 20 minutes. The team sprang into action, a whirlwind of furious keyboard strokes and whispered commands. It was a race against time, a digital battle fought on the eve of their greatest moment. Suddenly, an anonymous message flashed across Marcus's console, a fragmented string of code identifying a critical backdoor in Omnicorp's attack. Marcus recognized the signature. It was Liam's, a ghost from the past offering a lifeline. With this crucial piece of information, the team rerouted, counterattacked, and within minutes, the malicious code began to recede. A collective sigh of relief, brief and quickly stifled, swept through the room. They had weathered the storm. With a deep breath, Elara walked onto the brightly lit stage. The auditorium was packed, a sea of journalists, investors, and tech enthusiasts, their faces a mosaic of curiosity and skepticism. Microphones bristled like metallic reeds, and cameras whirred, capturing every nuance. Her composure was unwavering, a testament to the steel forged within her. She began her presentation not with technical jargon, but with a story. The story of Ether, born from a desire for fairness, transparency, and human-centric AI. As she spoke, the giant screens behind her came alive, showcasing Ether's intuitive interface, its ethical decision-making processes, and its profound positive impact on real-world scenarios. Then, with a click, she shifted gears. "But our journey has not been without its shadows," she declared, her voice gaining a steely edge. "We stand here today not just to celebrate innovation, but to expose corruption." With Sarah's meticulously gathered evidence, Elara laid bare Omnicorp's manipulative practices, the surreptitious data harvesting, the algorithmic biases designed to exploit vulnerabilities, the systematic suppression of competing ideas. She presented irrefutable proof, charts, encrypted communications, and even internal memos that painted a damning picture of corporate malfeasance. The audience was stunned into a profound silence. Then a murmur grew, escalating into a wave of disbelief and outrage. Omnicorp's CEO, watching from the front row, his face a mask of fury, stormed towards the stage, attempting to discredit Elara, to shout down her accusations. But his efforts were futile. The weight of the evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. The live stream, broadcasting globally, captured his panicked, desperate attempts, further eroding his credibility. In the immediate aftermath, the world erupted. Public outrage was swift and fierce. Omnicorp's stock plummeted. Investigations were announced, and the tech world watched in disbelief as a giant began to crumble. For Ether, it was a surge of unparalleled support. Investment offers poured in, partnerships were proposed, and Elara, standing amidst the chaos, felt a profound exhaustion, but also an overwhelming sense of triumph. The battle was far from over, but the war for ethical AI had just found its most formidable champion. The spotlight, once a symbol of her isolation, now shone brightly on her, a beacon of hope for a more responsible technological future. The fallout from the Global Tech Summit was immediate and devastating for Omnicorp. Regulatory bodies across continents launched investigations, their findings quickly exposing a labyrinth of unethical data practices, market manipulation, and calculated suppression of innovation. Sanctions followed, heavy and punitive, crippling the once dominant tech behemoth. Omnicorp, a symbol of unchecked corporate power, began a slow, public unraveling. Conversely, Elara's Ether blossomed into a global phenomenon. Its ethical framework, once derided as naive, became the gold standard, revolutionizing the tech industry. Universities clamored to integrate Ether's principles into their curricula. Governments sought its consultation for digital policy, and corporations, desperate to regain public trust, lined up to license its technology. The very institutions that had once rejected Elara now extended invitations, not merely as an attendee, but as a keynote speaker, a visionary, a thought leader. Her name, once synonymous with obscurity, became a beacon of integrity and groundbreaking innovation. Her family, who had subtly pushed her towards a safer path, watched with a mixture of awe and regret. Her mother, tears in her eyes, confessed her pride, acknowledging the depth of her past skepticism. Her father, usually reserved, offered a heartfelt apology, admitting he had never truly understood the magnitude of her vision. Elara, though still bearing the scars of their past doubts, found solace in their newfound understanding, accepting their apologies with grace, acknowledging that true support often blossomed after the harvest. Liam, the architect of her early betrayal, sought her out. His face was etched with remorse, his words a torrent of apologies and self-recrimination. He spoke of jealousy, of a misguided ambition that had blinded him. Elara listened, her expression unreadable. The pain of his betrayal had been profound, but the victory had also brought a quiet wisdom. She offered him not a complete reconciliation, but a conditional forgiveness, a recognition that holding on to bitterness would only poison her own triumph. "The past is done, Liam," she said softly. "Let's ensure the future is built on better intentions." It was a gesture of strength, not weakness, choosing growth over grudges. Marcus, her steadfast ally, Sarah, the brave whistleblower, and the entire Ether team gathered for a quiet celebration. There was no pomp, no grand speeches, just a shared sense of accomplishment, a deep camaraderie forged in the crucible of adversity. They had faced down a giant and emerged victorious, their belief in ethical technology vindicated. Their laughter filled the modest office that had once been Elara's sanctuary, now a symbol of their collective triumph. Elara didn't hoard her success. She dedicated a significant portion of Ether's resources to establishing the Ether Foundation, a nonprofit committed to promoting responsible AI development, digital literacy, and empowering marginalized communities through accessible technology. She envisioned a future where technology served humanity, not exploited it. A future she was now uniquely positioned to build. In a rare moment of solitude, Elara stood by her window, overlooking the bustling city below. The journey from unseen dreamer, hunched over lines of code in her cramped apartment, to global visionary had been arduous, fraught with rejection, betrayal, and relentless pressure. She remembered the sting of humiliation, the crushing weight of isolation, the flicker of defiance in her eyes. Now, the world looked different. Her legacy was not just in the revolutionary AI she had created, but in the paradigm shift she had inspired, proving that integrity and innovation were not mutually exclusive. Her work was far from over. The digital frontier still held countless challenges. But as she gazed towards the horizon, a calm certainty settled within her. Her legacy was secured, a testament to the indomitable spirit of one woman who dared to dream differently, a symbol of redemption and triumph.